Hi everybody, this is Amber Geis with Unveiling the Masks. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for your guys' support and love, and everybody who's been on this show. Thank you for speaking your truth and unveiling your mask. I really truly believe we are helping other people as we share our own individual stories. And today, for the first time, we actually have a guy on our show. I'm so excited to introduce you to Ben. Thank you so much for being here. We can't wait to hear your story.
So, I guess we're talking about me, and it comes down to what really affects me, and right now, it's my anxiety. I always thought that I was flaky, or that I just didn't want to get out of bed or something, and the more and more mental health stuff comes up in popular culture, I started realizing that I have a pretty serious case of undiagnosed depression and anxiety. Anything from just not wanting to get out of bed to literally not being able to deal and having panic attacks. As a kid, I spent a lot of time not wanting to go to school, not wanting to do things, hiding, a lot of anger issues, and it all sort of relates back to just anxiety about something. I basically, without, see?
It's totally fine.
Because I basically spend my time trying to figure out if I'm doing something wrong, what I should be doing, trying to figure out how people constantly feel about me. I feel like I'm very empathetic, and I constantly am worried about what those people think of me at the same time. So I spend a lot of time freaking out about things that probably nobody else is thinking about but me. And it's getting to a point where I'm looking into trying to get help, trying to talk to people about it, and even that causes anxiety. And the process you have to go through to get mental health care or even talk to somebody about it is absolutely infuriating. There's no easy way to do it. There's no acceptable way for especially a guy to do it. Any kind of anxiety or depression disorder with guys, you're basically just told to suck it up. And I've spent a lot of time not dealing with it, and I don't want to say it's gotten worse, but it certainly hasn't gone anywhere for ages. So that's where I'm at, and it affects everything. It affects my life, it affects my family, it affects my jobs. I've been let go from jobs from being unprofessional when it was literally just I was so depressed and burnt out on the job that I literally couldn't deal with taking care of myself and doing the job. I constantly am trying to figure out if it's my anxiety saying that or if it's me. And every once in a while, there's a clear day where you feel good and you feel like there's nothing standing in your way, and I'm super productive. So I'm usually really high energy. And I'll get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time, and then maybe a day or two later it fades and I'm back into the what can I do, or I'm trying to distract myself with my phone or video games or something, just literally just self-medicating with distractions. And I spend a lot of time trying to distract myself from what's going on in my head. And sometimes it is video games, and sometimes that's literally what you need, is something that's super concentrated where you can't think about anything else. And then I'll be able to go to bed comfortable and no anxiety. And sometimes that doesn't help at all, and it doesn't do anything. So, yeah.
What is your motivation? I think a lot of us struggle with anxiety and just forcing ourselves to be in this world. What do you think is your biggest motivation right now to like pull yourself out every day? Because if you're struggling with this every day, you're still functioning, you're here, you're a parent, you're living your life. What is your motivation to like move past that just in the moment? you're forcing yourself. You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
I mean, I'm functional. I mean, I play with my daughter. I do things around the house. I do 3D modeling in my spare time. I mean, I do a lot of different things that, you know, I function. But the biggest thing that keeps me going in that is, and it's part of the anxiety, is other people depend on me. And I can't just stop. And as much as I want to, and as much as I distract myself, at the end of the day, I am the breadwinner of a single income family. I have to be able to do that. I have to be able to give my daughter the childhood that she deserves, and I have to be present for that. And being present for that is hard when I'm constantly in a state of anxious, nervous energy, and I don't want to have to pass that on to her. I don't want her to see me as that wreck that I feel like inside. And I also don't want to take away anything that she should be getting from having a fully functional dad. And a big part of me trying to have those small distractions to keep myself grounded, keep myself distracted and out of my own head, is trying to make sure that I'm not quick to anger, I'm not snapping at people, I'm giving reasonable responses and not overreacting, not underreacting, and not responding at all. It's a fine line that I constantly am trying to walk, is to make sure that I'm not showing outwardly how much I'm struggling.
I think a lot of us are doing this every single day. On the inside, we are just going over every little thing and like, what did I just say? Is that affecting someone else? Or how are my actions? Or we just think we so think little of ourselves. And then on this outside, we're going around and we're just trying to smile. We're trying to hold it all together when we're just crumbling in the inside. And I know you talked about almost like your coping mechanisms, staying busy, the video games. I've been working on a book right now, and I've been talking about coping mechanisms and honoring that and saying thank you for those, because sometimes we look at them so negatively. I know for a long time my coping mechanism has been busy.
Yeah.
If I can just stay so busy, then I don't have to think about my life.
Yeah, and you can't always do that, because you literally run out of energy.
Yes.
And it just gets worse.
And it gets worse.
Yeah. And I've started seeing recently that there are more and more people that are seeing that, yes, video games in excess are bad. Like, of course, anything. You don't want to sit in front of any screen for 12 hours a day. But just like any other thing where you are repeating familiar things to yourself to get out of an OCD episode or any kind of anxiety disorder, trying to keep yourself grounded, think about something that you know, all of these things. Something that's super concentrated like video games, the right video game can be that in the right doses. Now, if left to my own devices, I would literally play video games 12 hours a day, and I would be an absolute mess. And that would be terrible. But an hour or two in the evening, I mean, other people are watching TV for 3 hours in the evening. Other people are, you know, sitting down and reading for 8 hours straight. Like, you know, if you like books, you like movies, TV, I'm not spending any more time on my hobbies than somebody who is really into it. I don't even spend as many. If you go hunting or camping or something, you're spending way more hours a week if you're going hunting every weekend than I do playing video games.
Yeah. And that's the part where I think we have to honor that and say thank you sometimes for our coping mechanisms for allowing us to keep moving forward. Yeah. But also we have to start feeling, and people that I think suffer from anxiety, depression, myself included, we don't want to feel our emotions, and we just stuff them. Yeah. And I mean, I think just for you even being here and talking about it and acknowledging it, it's already out there. Trying not to give it power and saying, but this is what I'm struggling with. I mean, what's some advice that you can give other people? Because there's so many people struggling with this, and so many people walking around almost as zombies. Yeah. You know?
Well, the biggest thing that helps me is thinking, remember, everybody is dealing with something. Not everything is about you. And it sounds really cruel, but you have to make sure that you know that most people are so stressed about their own life that they don't have time to dig in and try and be mean to you. Most people are scared about their finances, they're anxious about family stuff, they've got all this stuff going on in their life. Most people don't have time to be cruel to other people. It's absolutely just mindless. It's almost, it feels to me like people think that it might be intentional, but we're all selfish. We're all trying to deal with our own stuff, and nobody is trying to go out of their way. Yeah, someone might do something a little mean because they think it's funny, but they're not stalking you and trying to make your life hell. And just remembering that, and especially for me with the anxiety, with worrying about what people are thinking about me, how I'm doing, constantly trying to rate my performance and everything, is just to remember that the bar is set where you want it to be. If you need to take a mental health day, and I don't do this, but I know that if I need to take a mental health day, I need to do it. But a lot of jobs don't understand that.
Right.
You can take a sick day if you're physically ill, but if your anxiety is so bad that day that you know that you would mess up more than you would help at work, that's the same thing as going in and wasting time being sick. There's no difference between it. And just understanding that sometimes you need to step back. Sometimes you need to have alone time, or you need to go out and have social time, depending on which helps you. And everyone's too different to have one good thing, but just knowing, for me, knowing that it's not always about me, because I always worry that it's always about me.
When most of the time it really isn't.
It
But
really
us,
isn't.
in our head, we think that all the time. Oh my gosh, me. Or if you see a Facebook post, are they talking about me? Are they mad at me? Oh my
Someone
gosh,
vague booking and you're like, oh God, they're talking about me. Yeah, it's not about you probably.
No,
Yeah.
but in our mind, we have that story, and sometimes it's almost changing the story.
Yeah, the narrative that you
The
give
narrative
yourself.
is super important. I remember last summer I had to change my whole story in my head to kind of keep moving on with life. And that was such a powerful moment of, even if it's 2 sentences. I am whatever, you fill in the blank, and you repeat that to yourself 1,000 times a day. I don't even care how many. That's also something really powerful. But I think talking about it, acknowledging what it is, and trying not to give it power, and then working through it and feeling the emotions is so important.
And a lot of it that I feel like, when I feel overpowered by it, part of the reason that I need something to dull it isn't because I don't want to feel the emotions, but because they've literally set off a cycle that can't be stopped. It's, whether you're anxious over not performing well at work, you're worried about getting let go, you're worried about being able to provide, like all those things that you internalize, and everything that you're constantly trying to figure out, there's that cycle that you can't break. You need to be able to get away from it for a little while. You need to have that video game, checking Facebook. All these things that we do nervously are something to try and escape, and sometimes that cycle is the thing that's going to, being anxious is the thing that's going to make you perform worse at work. It is the thing that's going to get you fired. It is the thing. So sometimes you have to get out of that because it is literally expanding, and it's taking over all those little places where normally you can get stuff done and now you can't. So I think it's important to be able to break that cycle every once in a while and be able to reset.
Absolutely.
And dealing with it in doses that you can handle, and just further and further. Every day you take one step more. Whether it be you can't leave your house, whether you're having trouble getting out of bed, whether it's something as simple as, I don't like having to go grab pens in the middle of work. There are all sorts of different things that it could be, and it could be something small like, I get bothered by having to get up from my desk at work, to literally, like I said, like, I can't get out of bed this morning, like, there's nothing that I can do. The world doesn't need me today. And those are all thoughts that I've had. Everything from being frustrated at work and just being like, oh, why do I gotta walk over there? It should be over here. And all those things are going to take over if you let them. And being able to bleed off some of that nervous energy, let some of it go, and whatever be your release, sometimes you need that. And sometimes it's a release and sometimes it's a distraction. And the distraction can do that job. There just needs to be a healthy way to accomplish it.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on like medicine? I mean, there's a point sometimes where everything seems so overwhelming. You know, I know that there's medicine out there. I mean, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, all of it's a tool. I mean, you wouldn't not take your heart medication if you had a heart problem. You would take your baby aspirin every morning.
Absolutely.
You would take your blood pressure medication. All of that is imbalances in different things in your body, whether it be an imbalance in some kind of cholesterol for blood pressure, whether it be kidney or liver problems, and that's an imbalance of like toxins in your body. Like all of these things are imbalances. Every single or most mental disorders, whether it be something as simple as simple anxiety up to full OCD or any of those very serious life-hampering disorders, all of those are some kind of imbalance, electrical, hormonal, something. These are a tool, and some work for some people and some don't. But you see how many different medications people go through trying to find the one that works for them, and everyone's body chemistry is different. Everybody's imbalance that they're dealing with is different. So it's important to have an array of tools. And if working out is your thing that gives you enough serotonin to get through your day, then by golly, you work out every morning. Do your thing. If working out doesn't do it, or even worse, you're so depressed and in your head that you can't get out of bed to work out, or it's too much time out of your day and you feel like you can't, that's something that you can't get to that point. You need something to dig you out of the hole.
Exactly.
And if the medication is going to dig you out of that hole so you can start functioning and start working on it, then absolutely. And there's a big thing in our society, and I've felt it a lot with myself, is that getting any kind of medication is either looked down upon or it's a struggle. I can't get my GP to actually prescribe me anything. I have to go through this lengthy process of going to a separate mental health center, getting full evaluations, waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to try and get this stuff, and it makes me anxious. And it makes it, there are so many doors for me to try and go through that it's daunting. And I have not stepped through the first door yet because I'm scared of what the next door is. I'm scared of what the door after that is. And then another part of it is money. I might be able to afford medication with health insurance, but most therapy is barely covered or not covered. So yeah, I can medicate myself and that gets me out of the hole to begin with, but where do I go? I don't want to just do that. And if I do that and therapy and something else, and that's what I need, and then I get to a point with the therapy where I feel good and I can be on, there's a medication that fixes that imbalance and I'm past the stuff and all I need is the medication, sweet. That's perfect. It's not ideal because everyone wants to be able to live without that, but your brain might not be able to do that. You can't assume that everybody's brain is going to be able to function the same as the ideal brain, which there isn't really. But how do you go about your life and not want to take medication to fix something that you want to? You shouldn't be held back from it. And a big thing in our society is going towards getting mental health care, and it's opening up a lot more now, and there's a lot more of that out for us to see and receive, and it promotes things in myself to want to be able to do that, to want to be able to get help. And it's nice to know that it's there. It gives me hope that someday I will start stepping through the doors quickly.
Right.
But there's no quick process to it.
No. I think the more we talk about it, maybe we can help change the stigma of mental health.
Yeah.
And people can start recognizing it as super serious. And like you said, even just taking time off sometimes for you, just for you, to be alone, to process things,
it sounds
to feel
selfish.
But that's how we've been trained. It sounds selfish.
It sounds selfish because all of our brains are designed around service, and we're always trying to do something for somebody else.
Yes. But then sometimes that leaves you barely holding on because you're giving so much energy and everything else to someone else that you're broken and like wounded and tired. So there has to be that balance.
It's the same thing with triage with injuries. You find who needs the help this second. The reason the ERs, you think it takes a long time, is because there's someone with a more serious issue that had to go first. And there's always going to be that, whether it be for injuries, whether it be for, you know, the case of airlines. Put your air mask on before you put your person next to you. Like, you've got to be able to help yourself before you can expend that energy to help everybody else. And while I logically know this, in practice, 30% of the time, maybe, like there's no perfect solution. There's no you're not gonna be able to do it all the time, and it's not going to work for everyone. Everybody is so different, that whether it be medication or working out or taking time for yourself, whatever it is, there is a solution for everybody. We just all have to find it, unfortunately, on our own.
Yes, you are your biggest advocate. I learned that when I was going through cancer. As we close, is there any advice you want to give to people, the person who doesn't struggle with anxiety or depression? Like, is there anything you want to let them know? Because it's really hard sometimes for people to see inside of us and to understand. Is there any advice you want to give to that person who doesn't struggle?
God, I wish I had the perfect advice, because all of us who really struggle with anxiety, the outward image that we put off is that we're trying our best, and we are. We're trying our best. We don't want to be like this. We don't want to disappoint you. It is always in our mind. We are not flaky. We are not ignoring your needs. We literally are crippled in a way that we can't handle your needs on top of our own. And just knowing that we're not ignoring you. We're not trying to hurt you. We are literally doing our best, and that is part of our anxiety. That's part of what we need. We are trying to get ourselves pulled together for. We're trying.
I love it. That's so honest. If you are struggling with anxiety or depression, we will have information on this video, and just know that you're not alone. There's so many people struggling with anxiety or depression, and there's so many people walking around with that big smile on their face trying to hold it together. And I just want to say thank you for sharing, because I think it just, you know, to start acknowledging our mountain or our problems or the things that feel like that are crippling us, we have to start talking about them, and we have to start admitting them, and we have to start helping each other through it. Sometimes we have to help ourselves as well, but sharing our stories can also help other people. So I just want to say thank you for sharing today, and I just wish you guys all a really wonderful week, and I will see you back here again next Sunday.